Student Engagement Utilizing Student Response Systems, presented by Raymond Craig Follett. The purpose of this video is to present an analysis of the theme of student engagement utilizing student response systems, or SRS, through an analytical literature review. Students who utilize SRS show increased levels of engagement, which in turn results in increased involvement in class, improved ability to recall facts, and higher levels of attention while in class. Methods. The literature selection process for this review was conducted to include, as part of the titles, the following two aspects: some form of student response system and a reference to student engagement. Book reviews and meta-analysis were excluded from the review, resulting in the selection of 10 studies, all of which included participants. 8 of the studies relied on student and/or instructor surveys as their tools for data collection, while the remaining 2 used control groups to test hypotheses. All studies were published in peer-reviewed educational journals between the years 2007 and 2013. Findings. A variety of methods were used in the studies to investigate how the use of SRS would affect student engagement. 2 of the selected studies, Barch and Murphy, 2011, and Blood and Nell, 2008, used direct comparison between SRS use and non-use. These comparative studies both used knowledge quizzes to gauge student performance and self-surveys to examine student engagement levels. Both studies reported that student performance was positively affected by SRS. With respect to the issue of engagement, the 2 comparative studies did differ in their findings. Blood and Nell's study reported a significant increase in student engagement levels, but they admitted that the study results were limited in that a small sample size of 35 students was used and that the study was conducted over a short period of 10 weeks. Barch and Murphy's study did not find a significant increase in engagement levels. In the remaining studies which did not use any form of comparison or control group, surveys and interviews of students, and in 2 studies, instructors, were administered to get their views on SRS use. 5 themes on student engagement were revealed and examined. Theme 1. Students at risk for low participation were examined by Graham, Tripp, Seawright, and Jackal in their 2007 study. While 80% of these students reported that they found it easier to remain engaged in class due to the use of SRS, this was not significantly higher than the results reported by students who were not at risk for low participation. These students also reported that they were more likely to get involved in class because of the presence and utilization of SRS. Knowing where they stood in terms of class knowledge and understanding was also cited as an advantage of using SRS. Theme 2. 5 of the studies reported increases in interactivity in their findings. Blasco-Arcus, Buil, Hernandez-Ortega, and Cease's study, conducted in 2013, revealed increased levels of interactivity both between students and with the teacher through the use of SRS. In 2009, King and Robinson reported on similar themes of interactivity. Participants in their study reported that checking understanding and encouraging more responses were noticeable benefits of using SRS. The immediate feedback possible through SRS use was reported as a positive by participants in a study conducted by Jane and Farley in 2012. Tirian and Assetti's 2012 study concluded that effective SRS use can allow professors to connect with students in a way which complements the lecture format and thus may lead to greater student engagement. Theme 3. Instructors' proficiency in the management of SRS use was a concern for students. In their study of SR use, Hahn and Finkelstein discovered that the level of training provided to instructors impacted student perceptions of SRS for improving their engagement and learning. Of 116 students surveyed by Graham et al., 35% reported that technical problems with the devices caused them to have negative feelings about the use of SRS. Theme 4 deals with student demographics and perceptions. Gender, ethnicity, level of academic experience, and preference to be engaged in large classes all had significant impact on students' learning preferences and attitudes toward student response systems. Similarly, higher perceptions of learning, engagement, interaction, and enjoyment were shown to be predicted by variables of gender, year of study, question type, and ease of use. While males found SRS to be a positive tool for learning, females reported that SRS use related more to their increased engagement rather than increased learning. The final theme to emerge from the studies was formative versus summative evaluation. Student levels of engagement and learning increased when student response systems were used for formative rather than summative purposes. Students were less engaged in class when SRS were used more as a tool for taking attendance than as an aid for learning. Discussion. The studies analyzed for this presentation all reported positive benefits of SRS use. This next section of the presentation will discuss these positives while also revealing some challenges that may arise with SRS use. Therrien and Assetti's study revealed that SRS use had the potential to create a culture of interactivity between teachers and students. The selected studies examined for this presentation consistently demonstrated SRS as an effective tool for increasing student engagement and improving performance. Students liked the anonymous nature of SRS as it allowed them to feel more encouraged to participate in class as it removed their fear of providing an incorrect answer. Surveyed students reported that they felt their answers and opinions were valued due to SRS use. Survey results also showed that the formative feedback received by instructors allowed them to alter their instruction to their students' immediate benefit. One technique used by instructors was to have students collaborate on a question or discussion point with their peers before responding with their devices. Students consistently reported this as being one of the most positive uses of SRS. Students also found comfort in knowing where they stood in class with respect to knowledge and understanding. Although quite a number of positives emerged from this literature analysis, some challenges with regard to SRS also became apparent. Care must be taken to ensure that these systems are used properly to ensure the intended benefits are realized. Instructor training, or lack thereof, was found to be detrimental to the effective use of SRS. Hahn and Finkelstein provided compelling evidence in their study that the more training and experience that teachers had with SRS, the higher their student engagement levels would be. Student ability to use SRS also emerged as a challenge. If students had difficulties using the devices, they were more likely to demonstrate lower levels of engagement. Technical issues with the devices was a very strong predictor of negative reactions from students. When the devices were viewed as hindering the learning process instead of aiding it, students were quick to disengage and lose faith in the process. The ability of SRS use to increase student engagement was not realized when students perceived their use to be frivolous. Students' main preference for SRS use was to provide themselves and their professors with formative feedback, not merely as a means to take attendance. Conclusions. The selected studies examined for this presentation consistently demonstrated SRS as an effective tool for increasing student engagement. Increases in collaborative learning, student achievement levels, and confidence levels were all reported in this analysis. These benefits of SRS use were reported consistently throughout the analysis, suggesting that SRS implementation would have a predominantly positive impact for students. Limitations. This analysis used studies that included both students and instructors, which was beneficial in getting more than one perspective on SRS use. Including studies that also dealt with K-12 students would have been helpful to this analysis, but none were found. All of the studies presented in this analysis, therefore, involve students and instructors at the university level. Further study on the effect of SRS use on K-12 students would add to this discussion. Another boundary that could have been changed was to look at other strategies for increasing student engagement through technology. Studies related to other interactive technologies such as Skype, SMS, and SmartBridget could provide another perspective on the role technology can play in increasing student engagement. Implications. Instructor training with the goal of developing strategies for creating suitable questions for use with SRS will be required in order to strengthen the applicability of this tool in promoting student engagement. Future research should also examine the effect of clickers longitudinally in order to determine whether increased performance and engagement may eventually decline due to the wearing off of a possible novelty effect. there is a need to examine whether there are different types of student engagement with respect to student and teacher feedback.